How's it going, Adam? Thanks
Ciao.
for coming on to the show. You want to give the people a little overview of who you are and what you do? How do we know each other?
Chris and I go way back. We're actually brothers. I'm younger, for those of you who can't tell. Chris is catching up on the hair, though. Stressful life.
I know. It's a tough life out here as a podcaster, you know. You're actually my first in-person guest. I know we already talked about this, but
Yeah.
first in-person guest. So
I love the studio.
Yeah, I hope the people like the studio that are all three of you guys that decided to watch the show, one of which is sitting here with me. So, all two of the people that will watch the show. I hope you like the
It's like your biggest
studio.
fan gets to be on the podcast.
I
today.
know. I know. I'll have on the other two. So Christina and maybe Aaron. Those will be my next
There's probably someone out there.
There's got to be
Like
somebody.
some huge mega fan.
Well, I think there actually, funny you say that, I think there is, because there's somebody, when I did have Instagram on my phone, I had some random, like, chick, lady, I never went to her profile. Well, I went to her profile once. I have no idea who she is. And she would, like, comment on all my photos, like, DM me, and I'm like, I have zero.
Wait, this was pre-podcast or like,
Post-podcast.
Okay.
So there's I actually don't know who she is, but it'd be hilarious if it's like some like fan whatever person that just found me from a podcast and is now following me. I think it'd be hilarious. Because I went to her profile and was like, I have no idea who this is. And then I showed Christina. I was like, do we know who this is? And she's like, I don't know who that is. I was like, I wonder if this is like
Shout out to her.
I don't know your handle, but if I did, I'd give you a shout out on the show.
Big time to her, just like that.
I know.
She's heartbroken right now.
We'll just clip all this out. I can't be exposing my number one fan. But anyways, yeah, give the people an overview of who you are, how we know each other.
I'm Adam, biggest fan of the podcast. That's about the only notable.
It is funny because I shout out you in like 90% of my podcasts. Anytime I don't look at the cameras, whenever everyone out there listening, if I ever say, sorry, I'm not looking in the camera's eyes, it's because of Adam, because he always rips me whenever I'm not looking into the camera's eyes. So, yeah.
Aaron and I were listening to an episode recently, and you said,
really?
You shouted me out, and Aaron was like, you're famous, dude. And meanwhile, there's like 6 views going on 7 because we were watching it.
Yeah. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. I had my big break, though. My last episode, 200 views.
How to buy a car.
How to buy a car.
Sick.
People want to know. But anyways, tell people about your profession. What do you do for a living?
Yeah.
What do you do for a living?
So, I'm a professional poker player. A little different.
Just a little bit.
Even for me, if someone tells me like, oh, I'm a professional poker player, even me being a professional poker player, I just roll my eyes. So I can only imagine someone who's not in that space, what they think of me and what all the fans I know. You're one
Roast
fan.
them in the comments.
Yeah.
Roast them in the comments.
But yeah, so a little different, but it pays the bills, and it's definitely an adventure.
Okay.
For sure.
How did you? I mean, obviously, I know we grew up together. We played like little house games every once in a while. But like, when was your first memory of playing poker? Or gambling. Gambling.
Okay, so you know what? I don't know if you remember this. We actually played poker at our great grandmother's. It wasn't poker. So this is what we did. We had pieces of candy. This
had to be like Starburst back in the day.
Yeah.
Was it?
She was all about the Starburst.
She loved them Starburst.
Do you remember this?
Not at all.
We thought we were playing poker, but we were playing like blackjack mixed with poker.
I do.
So we would deal everyone like one card and have a betting street. Then we would get a second card and have another betting street or something like that. And we were trying to make our hands add up to 21. And we thought we were playing poker.
That's kind of sick.
We like invented our own poker.
That's kind of a sick game, actually.
That's the first time I remember thinking I was playing poker.
Didn't we just do that? Well, there was no parents involved with this, right?
Hell no.
We were just winging it.
Yeah.
Just being little DJs
Yeah.
from little Chris and Adam running around.
That was a good time.
You know what can I say? Who won? Did you win? I don't remember.
Don't
at all.
remember.
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't win. I would remember if I won.
Probably Aaron won.
Yeah.
Probably Aaron won. Okay, so that was your first memory. When did you get serious into poker? I assume college, but I'm not sure. Maybe it was earlier, maybe it was later.
We were taking it somewhat seriously in high school, but it's funny. Like, we thought we were pretty good. We thought we were like, we were serious. But then I get to college and realize these guys in the poker club at Tech, they were like the next level. So then once I was talking strategy with them and taking it more seriously, then I knew. Then I was like, okay, I was a scrub in high school at poker, but now I'm a big shot. So then I figure, hey, you know what? So I actually was winning in these games. These are like $20, $30 home poker games.
Which for us
Oh, this was high
That's
stakes.
highest of stakes.
Oh,
That's
for
full
real.
100% of net worth in these games.
So I was playing in Winchester. I basically saved up just from playing poker with you guys, mostly like the younger crew, like Aaron and
I feel like you guys started that a little bit after I had.
Shout out to Nick Dangler.
I know, baby Otter, and Big Otter.
Yeah. So from that game, I saved up $187 in profits, which
That's pretty good for a high schooler.
crushing for like $5 games. So I was doing well. Granted, I was probably running really good, which means getting lucky in poker language.
Yeah.
So I get to college, and that was like what I was treating as my bankroll. So I had an envelope with that 187 in it, and I started playing the $20 games and doing pretty well. And then eventually, the guy who ran the games, he called me and he was like, "Hey, we're having another like a bigger game tonight. It's a $50 buy-in, so 25-cent, 50-cent blinds." And I was like, "Bro, dude, I'm not ready for all this." So I said, "Let me wait on that." And then I kept doing well at the.
Did most people like at a $50 buy-in in college? Were they just like, "Yeah, I'll jump in," or was that like that? Because that had to be. I know for 100% fact I would not have played that in college.
I think it was less than half of the players were like.
How many people normally came out and played?
2 full tables, I would say.
2 full tables?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And
what's
what's a full table in college? Was
Like,
that like 12, 10?
No, like 8 or 9.
8 or 9. Okay.
Yeah.
What is it at the casinos?
Nowadays, mostly 8.
8?
Yeah, it used to be 9.
Okay.
Primarily.
Interesting.
So yeah, anyway, I did pretty well in these like college games. I was taking it pretty seriously. And then eventually I was just like, you know what, this is like fast forward, senior year.
Yeah.
I decided, you know what, let me try and do this professionally after I graduate. And there's a lot of in between that we're skipping over.
Do we have to skip over in between?
We can go over it.
I want to hear about you playing. When was the first time you ever played in a casino?
Oh man. Okay, so that's a funny story actually. So
I don't know if I know this story. I know of casino stories of yours, but I don't know of the first time in a casino.
So college. We know what happens in college. There's sometimes some fake ID action in college. And I was like, as you know, I was a pretty straight arrow kid growing up.
Very straight
Especially
arrow.
in college. Like in high school I was a bit of a class clown, but still pretty on top of my stuff. In college I was like very straight arrow. Like classwork comes first, no partying, no drinking. And so some of my, I won't name names, but there were fake IDs being ordered. And I was like, "Oh, hey, can you put in an order for me?" And they thought I'm joking because they know I don't drink. And I was like, "Oh no, it's for I want to go to the casino and try to play poker." So they were like, "Oh, even worse than drinking."
You're not an alcoholic. You're a gambling addict.
Yeah. And then so they were like, once I convinced them I was being serious, then they ordered me an ID. We like went to this special spot on campus where they took the pictures to make them look really real. And so I get a fake, and I like use it at the gas station a few times to warm myself up.
Like use it to what? Like buy
beer.
Yeah, beer. I guess,
that I didn't even drink.
Yeah.
And then I went to some like junky casino in West Virginia to try to play poker. And when we were on our way, I was like I was fiddling with my ID. I had 2, and I was fiddling with one of them to see how much it could bend and not break, and I broke it. And so I was like, all right, we're down to 1 ID, baby. And so yeah, I get to this. It was Mardi Gras Casino in Charleston, West Virginia.
Oh.
Not Charlestown.
Oh.
Yeah, they make it hard on you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I go and give them my fake ID. I'm like sweating balls. And they're just like, "All right, you have a good time, son." And I go and ended up, at the time I didn't realize, like prior to getting this, like ordering the fake ID, I didn't realize that you could actually win in a casino at anything. So I thought that, yeah, they have poker, but it's like, there's got to be some catch where it's impossible to win. Like the rake is too high or something.
Yeah.
And the players at the home games, they convinced me like, "Oh no, yeah, you can win money at a casino, no problem." So I was like, "Oh cool, fake ID." So we do all this. I play my first few sessions playing in the casino with a fake ID. I just ran super hot. It was kind of the same story all the way along. It was like playing in the home games in Winchester, ran super hot, won a bunch, thought I was amazing. In college, ran super hot in the home games, won a lot, thought I was amazing. And then in the casino, when I moved up to playing like the 1-2 and 2-5 games, or at first just 1-2, which is like $200-$300 that you're gonna expect to win or lose. I was just running.
And it's $1 blind,
Yeah,
like
$1
a small blind, big blind. So
Yeah.
it costs $2 just to play. Like
Kinda-
bare minimum, you have to pay $2 just
Yeah.
for people to kind of
Yeah.
that don't gamble.
So anyway, I played a couple times freshman year. I think I was 19, 18 or 19
Okay.
freshman year of college.
Yeah, I mean you'd probably be 18. I would assume at
Should
least at the
know
beginning.
this.
At least at the beginning, you'd
Yeah.
probably be 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I had an early birthday. So whatever. I think it was 19.
18, 19.
So I played a few times freshman year with a fake ID. And then that summer, I kept borrowing mom's minivan to go play at Charlestown this time. Like
Close-ish to town.
Yeah. And again, was just running super good. Like, I think my first 8 or 9 sessions I won, which is not a thing. Like, it shouldn't be like that. It's kind of a coin flip, whether you win or lose, even if you're a good player. But I was just running good, thought I was amazing, ended up moving up to the 2.5 limit, which is about twice as big or a little bit bigger. And again, was just doing really well.
Yeah.
And it kind of went to my head, and I thought I was super good, even though I was still terrible.
Yeah.
But I kept playing throughout college and still winning, some ups, some downs, but overall doing pretty well. And I built that bankroll from $187 up to about $25K.
Okay.
Just straight up. There was no like supplementing. It was just went from a $5 buy-in at a home game up to $25K.
Yeah, sick.
Granted, a lot of luck involved.
Yeah. What is gambling? So
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like people joke, if you win when you first start playing, then that's actually a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's not a joke. That's like a very,
Yeah.
that's very much like a gambling addict's like
career
path.
starter pack.
Yeah, yeah. One big, thought it was amazing, and then just was trying to catch that big break again.
That's basically what it was. Except for me, I still was probably a winning player, but I wasn't. Should have been winning a little, and I was winning a lot just from getting lucky.
Yeah.
So where does that bring us? Yeah. So then now I'm playing 2.5. I have like $25K, and this is the middle of senior year college, and I'm thinking, you know what? I want to. Oh wait, no. Back up. This is junior year. I have $25K saved up, and I haven't decided yet that I want to pursue poker as a profession. And I decide, you know what? I've got a lot of money saved up. I have no expenses.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put $15K of this towards my student loans. They were already piling up.
Yeah.
Not smart, because then I had less money to gamble with. So I put $15K towards student loans. So now I have $10K to my name. And by like midway through senior year, I still have about $10K to my name. And that's when I decided, hey, I've got $10K to my name, and I've got some poker skills. Why don't I try being a professional poker player? So that like middle of senior year, I'm like, all right, I'm all in. I'm gonna give this a real shot.
Yeah.
And try to play professionally.
Yeah.
So I told mom and dad. They weren't thrilled, but they were like, all right, give it a shot. As long as you're willing to quit, then no problem. That was like dad's take, I remember.
Yeah.
And so then I moved to Vegas after senior year with, at that time I only had, I want to say $8,500 to my name because I had lost some money. I went on like the biggest downswing of my life leading up to moving to Vegas to play professionally, and which at the time was a couple $1,000s. So I'm sitting on like $8,500 to my name.
Yeah.
And I fly to Vegas. I had a friend, shout out to Chris, different Chris. I had a friend who was playing poker professionally in Vegas at this time.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, I've got a couch. You can come crash on my couch.
Yeah.
And grind some 1-2. Because with $10,000 or with $8,000, you can't really be playing. Honestly, you can't really be playing poker as a living when you have $8,000. But you definitely can't be playing bigger than the smallest stakes in the casino, which is 1-2.
And why is that?
There's actually a lot of pretty involved math with this. Look up Kelly criterion if you're interested in how big you should be willing to play with X bankroll. But yeah, the rule of thumb is like you should have 20 buy-ins. So the buy-in at 1-2 is let's say $200.
Okay.
So you should have at least $4,000 in your bankroll to be playing 1-2. It's a rough estimate. It should depend on what your edge is as well. If you're a losing player, technically you're never rolled to play a given stake. So for 2.5, the buy-in's typically $1,000. So you would want to have more like $20K. And that's pretty, if that's all the money you have to your name, that's not really your bankroll.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was playing 1-2. Didn't go well. I realized, like, I wasn't quite ready to be playing poker professionally, skill-wise, like soft skills and hard skills. Like, I wasn't good enough at poker, but I also wasn't taking it as seriously as I should have been.
Okay.
And, yeah, so effectively went broke. I had a line in my head of, like, 4K.
Yeah.
If my net worth drops below 4K, then I should probably get a job. So I, maybe 5 months after moving to Vegas, I hit that number. Sad day.
Sad day.
I say sad day. I wasn't like torn up about it. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go home. I'm going to like take a week off and then fly home, try to find a job.
Yeah.
And then, have you heard of an enabler in the context of gambling addiction?
I already know where this is going, but no, I haven't. Please explain what an enabler is.
Shout out to Ryan. So the next day, coincidentally, no coercion on my end, I get a call from one of my college friends who was like had a real job where they pay you real money, and he was asking me how things are going in Vegas, and I told him, "Oh, you know what? Actually, funny you ask. I quit. I'm no longer playing poker. As of yesterday, I went broke, and now I'm just gonna look for a job." And Ryan, this is the enabler in the story. He's like, "Oh, dude, I'll bankroll you." And so we came up with this deal, this staking deal that was I had to play some obscene amount of hours because his philosophy was like, he was like, dude, Adam, the way you're describing how things have gone in Vegas, it's like, yeah, you've probably run kind of bad, gotten unlucky, but you haven't been treating this like a job. Like, you've been playing like 30, 35 hours a week. If you really want to make this work, you need to be putting in a ton of hours, studying, get yourself on a schedule. Like, you need to treat this like a job. So he had me playing a bunch of hours, and then I was going to play a set number of hours. It was like 500 hours in like 2 months. Yeah. Maybe even more. It was like something ridiculous. Yeah. And if I win money by the end of this like 550 hours, then I would keep, I think it was 60%. And if I lost, and so if I win, I get 60, he gets 40. Yeah. If I lose, I had to cover like 5%, some like small measly amount, just to be like,
just have some skin in the game.
Adam feels a little bit of pain too. Yeah. And so,
and did this Ryan character, did he know you from poker? Yeah. Like he knew that you played and knew like your skills level?
Ryan was a poker friend from college. Okay. Yeah. And he was one of the best players in those home games. Yeah. He even Ryan wouldn't be like winning in the casinos nowadays because this is years ago. Everyone's gotten too good now. But he was familiar with my poker game, and he thought that I would be a winning player in the long run. So, granted, honestly, the games in Vegas were really, like the 2-5 games were fairly tough, even in those days, where at the time, I think both of us, me and Ryan, we both 100% thought that he was getting a great deal. Now, looking back, I mean, I was still really bad. So, I still think he got it in good, but primarily he was just trying to help me out. Yeah. And he definitely thought he was making a winning investment. He wasn't just donating money. Yeah. Regardless, it ended up going really well. I made like over the course of the 500 or so hours, I made like $18K. I think we ended it a little bit early. Whatever adds up to, I was making like $35 an hour. Yeah. Which I was thrilled. And like, I mean,
that's great. That's for most people right out of school making $35 an hour.
Oh,
is unheard of.
Yeah. So in 2 months, I made like $18K. Yeah. Granted, that gets chopped, but like I generated $18K. Yeah. Running good. But in my mind, I'm like, yo, $18K, maybe it was 17 in like 2 months, but still, I was like, wow, okay.
And $18K total, right? And then you split that with Ryan, and you kept 40%. Yeah.
I keep 60.
Oh, you kept 60. He kept 40. Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
And then for those of you math inclined, the way that it worked out, given the variance in poker, was I needed to be making at least $15 an hour for this to be a break-even deal for Ryan. So it's actually difficult to do this math problem, but you have to assume a certain amount of variance to get here. But given what we thought the variance was in the stakes I was playing, and given the breakdown of how much I was going to get if we win and how much I'm going to get if we lose, or like how much I'm going to body if we lose, I needed to be winning at $15 an hour. Yeah. And we were pretty confident that I was. Yeah. Like I said, looking back, I think it's iffier because I was pretty freaking bad. But anyway, so that deal ends. Now I'm back to having a little bit of a bankroll.
Yeah.
Still an irresponsible amount to be gambling full time.
Yeah.
But I have some amount of bankroll. Then a new enabler.
Yeah, I thought this were going. I forgot that there was a beginning enabler and then a bigger enabler.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Chris?
I have an idea, but go ahead, please share the story.
My brother hits me up and he's like, actually, I don't know if you remember how this started. You asked if I would be interested in playing tournaments and you taking a piece.
Actually,
something like that.
So the way that it originally OG started is I was probably like a year into working at ADP. So I went from like first job making no money, just peasant, and then worked at ADP, got my first year on the belt, actually was making like real money.
You wanted to get into some philanthropy?
I was like, I'm becoming an investor. I heard I need my money to work for me. Yeah. I've been working for my money too hard. So I remember we were talking. Also, I thought it was badass. You kind of glazed over this part of the story, but where you were supposed to be getting paid sort of TA to go to Purdue, right?
This is in the future. We're not there yet.
That's right. Was it?
So during the Ryan staking deal, I asked for a day off. I was like, yo, Ryan, can I take a day off? I need to apply to college because I want to, I already went to college, but I needed to apply to grad school.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, all right, let me try to get into a PhD program. So I got accepted to a PhD program like at some point within our staking deal.
Okay.
So we weren't there yet. I was just in the application process, I think.
Are you sure? Because I remember being like, damn, that's badass that you did not. Because you moved in.
Yeah, this is still in the future.
Oh, so that's still in the future. Okay. Well, regardless, I remember I was like, wow, I actually have, because I went from having just no money in my bank account for the entire first year out of school. Like it was through college, I was making gloves, using that to pay off student loans, graduated. Like I was interviewing at all these sales jobs, like everywhere wanted to hire me for sales. I was like, I'm gonna fucking crush it in sales, and was getting all sorts of like really good offers in hindsight. And I ended up going with this marketing agency that, once again, not to get too into the weeds of like sales crap.
Shout out to.
I don't care. They finessed me for sure. But hey, what are you gonna do? That's the name of marketing agencies. They're very. All right, we're going to move on. I don't want to be ripping marketing agencies.
Shout
out. So anyways, they put me on a $25K base salary, all right, in Northern Virginia. Also keep in mind that I had been offered jobs that were anywhere from like $40,000 to $60,000 base. And I was hardcore sold by the VP of sales there on why their position was better. What a good sales rep. I still actually talk to him to this day because, like, damn, you finessed me. Like, you are the best sales rep I've ever talked to. Probably second best, but regardless. So, third best. And so he told me, 25K base, we're going to put you on something called a draw. For those who don't know what a draw is, they basically front your commission. And then as you make sales, you pay back the commission they, like, lent you.
What if you don't make it?
That's a great question. So there's two types of draws. There's a non-recoverable draw, which means if you quit, they don't come after you for that money that they already gave you. Then there's something called a recoverable draw, where if you leave and they've already fronted you like 10K of commission, they will literally come after you like you didn't pay your mortgage or you didn't pay your loans, and they'll like take you to court and you have to like file for bankruptcy and crap. Super slimy. It's like a used car salesman type tactic. But I didn't know.
Effectively, they're just forcing you to accept a loan.
Yes. But I also didn't understand. So keep in mind, the first 6 months I was there, I was going to be working on the marketing team. And so basically what they did is they made my draw match what the marketing people's draw were, what the marketing people's salaries were. Mm-hmm. So there at the time, the salary for an entry-level marketer was 38 and some change. It's called $38,000. So they were giving me a draw so I had a 25K base, and then they would give me whatever enough money is to get me to that 38K annually. So the first 6 months that I was working on the marketing team, because I was supposed to be learning the product, learning the process, learning how we talk to clients, just doing all that. So I remember specifically asking the VP of sales, so wait, first 6 months I'm getting a draw, but I have zero chance to sell. Like even if I was the greatest sales rep in the world, I have no chance to sell for the first 6 months because I literally cannot. Like I'm working on the marketing team. So does that mean 6 months and 1 day I go into the sales team and I make my first sale? Does that mean it's going to pay back like my 6 months of working on the market. No, it's a non-recoverable draw. He just kept saying it's a non-recoverable draw, and I didn't know what that meant. I asked Dad. He didn't know what it meant. Like nobody, like it's
There
not.
was no chat GPT.
Yeah, there's no chat GPT to just like easily tell you what the freak a non.
Yeah.
So he kept saying, no, we don't come after you if you leave. It's a non-recoverable draw, Chris. And I kept saying, so does that mean if I make a sale, do I have to pay back the 6 months? No, Chris, it's a non-recoverable draw. That means if you leave. So he just kept answering it in that way so that it didn't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying? And because he was dodging the answer by kind of answering it indirectly. So anyways, long story short, I'm making $38K a year. I'm paying rent in Northern Virginia. I got student loans. Also, keep in mind, I was selling gloves and doing like a video marketing business in college where I was making almost as much money as I was making doing this miserable 9-to-5 job. And so anyways, ended up making a huge sale. Literally at the time, the largest sale in the company's history. All right. We sold a website for $250,000. What a joke.
And this was your sale.
This was my sale.
Oh.
Dude, it was sick. Everyone was like, yeah, it's sick, man. It's dope. And then so they have to pay a deposit of like, yeah, here's your first payment. So like they signed the paper. We sent them the invoice and they paid it like later that day of $75K. And I got 10% commission. So I was like, I'm about to get $7,500. And at the time, given I was making no money, I was like, holy shit, like I am rich. And then I remember like waiting until like payday was coming, and I was like, payday came, and I was like, my normal pay, where did my pay go? Because I'd made one other sale up to that point, and the other sale was like a very small sale. Payday came and went. I didn't see any commission come in. But I was like, I'm like a little kid. I'm not going to go like banging on HR's door like, where the F is my money? I was like a pansy at this point. And so $75K deposit, I'm supposed to get $7,500 in my bank account. It doesn't come. I go to HR. I go to a CFO of the company. It was a small company. It was like 50 employees. So I go knocking on the CFO's door, and I'm like, yo, where the hell is my money? Like, I just made a huge sale. And also keep in mind, this was the first $75K that they paid. And then I was going to be getting paid another for $250,000 worth of like the sale. All right. And he was like, Chris, shut the door. Homie, I can't give his name. I can't rat him out. He's like, shut the door, Chris. And I shut the door. He's like, do you remember when I took you to lunch the other day? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you remember when I was trying to explain to you what a draw was? And I was like, kinda. I don't know. I was just eating food. He's like, you're in a hole of like $1 million worth of commission. It wasn't that amount, but basically that amount. He's like, and your draw ends like in 3 weeks. Meaning that you're going to have to sell $1 million before you start getting commission. AKA, you're going to be living off of $25K in Northern Virginia. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if I were you, I'd be finding a job ASAP.
Well, he's not really a homie because he's the one who swindled you to begin with.
No. VP of sales swindled me. CFO came in like probably like the last few months that like I was like only there for like 2 or 3 months while he was there. Homie, hooking it up for me. He's like, just shut the door. Find a job. I was like, here to go. So literally that night I went and applied to a bunch of jobs, got the ADP job, then was making, I think their starting base was maybe 40 or 45, somewhere in that ballpark. And then,
so in other words, you were filthy rich.
Well, I went from not even making that with my stupid base plus draw to making more than that. And then if you like made a certain amount of sales, you got bonuses. I was hitting all the numbers. I was like freaking top rep my first year there, or like first top like new rep. So I think my first year at ADP, I probably made maybe $75K, which once again for my second job out of school, but like, and it was sick because I didn't have to go into an office. I was like, I'm getting paid to just do whatever the hell I want all the time. This is the greatest job in the world.
But you didn't have to go into an office. Was this
is pre-COVID. So I was
oh, they were ahead of their time.
I was killing it. So they had you go into the office every Friday. And if you were a new rep, you had to go into the office Monday mornings for like an hour. And then Fridays, and it was also half day. So you go in Friday at 8 and leave at like 2 or 3.
Half day. John Kerr style.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, dude, this job is sick. Because all my buddies were working freaking 9 to 5, commuting to work. And I was like, I'll just do whatever I want all the time. Like, this is sick. And so, yeah. And then also, once you sold enough, you didn't have to go into the office on Mondays. And I sold my ass off. So, like, within a month, I didn't have to go in on Monday mornings. I was like, we chilling. So I think my first year there, I made like 75-ish K. And then at that point was finally the point where like I had either just paid off my student loans or like about to pay off all my student loans, and then had been putting away, because I was just listening to Dad at that point, I was putting away like 20% of my paycheck into my 401k because I was like, F it. And they had like a 6% company match. So I was like, yo, 401k is looking good. Like I actually have more than like I have like a 5 digits in a bank account. Like, I mean, granted, it's 401k, but I was like, this is sick.
Yeah.
And then I'm not in student loan debt because that is just criminal. And then I was like, all right, well, I need to do something with my money. And so that is where I reached out to you. And I was like, because originally what I was thinking, like, God honest truth was like, I don't know how well he's doing, but like, he's got to be doing decent. And I think it was like your birthday or Christmas. And I was like, I don't really know what to get him. It'd be dope to get him like a present, but then like it also could work out in my favor if he does really well. So originally I was like, I'll just pay for your buy-in of the World Series of Poker. He's like, yeah, he'll probably win. Not knowing anything about poker at that point in my life. Not that I know a lot right now, but knowing zero at that point. So I was like, yeah, I'll just bankroll you for the World Series of Poker. And then like we fucking split the winnings, dude. Yeah. And then if you lose, doesn't matter. Because I was like, I have like $10,000 in cash. I've never had $1,000 in cash. So that's where it started. And then thankfully you came in with sound advice and said, that's a really dumb idea, Chris.
Yeah, I remember. So this must have been Christmas because it was definitely winter. And yeah, tournaments are a whole nother beast. Like there's a lot of luck in poker in general, but tournaments, it's like crazy. You could be a great tournament player and lose for years straight. At least live. Online, if you're playing thousands of tournaments, that's another story. So yeah, I said, okay, not only are tournaments not my expertise, but there's just so much variance that we should probably
just think.
Yeah.
Just
think about the upside.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I just convinced you. So wait, I convinced you to do cash games.
Yep.
Like, hey, because I was still in the market for some staking.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's do cash games.
Yeah. So, yeah, I can loop in where my boys, shout out Nana and Krogan.
Suckers.
Yeah, I know, some enablers. So, kind of adjacent to me finally having money in my bank account, actually making real money. And so I was looking for like things to invest in. So I'd obviously had my 401k. I've been putting some money into, I was using Robinhood. So I was like, I'm putting money in this. And Nana and Krogan were like two of my like, like sharper, business-minded, wanting to invest friends, both, doing well in their jobs, making real money. And so we opened up a business bank account and dumped 45 to $50,000 into a business bank account, and we were going to use that on a down payment on a house. So we had, the company was called AAC Management, it was like all of our last names. And so we had all, like, which also at that time, I was like, I've never seen this much money in one bank account. This is sick. We're about to be rich. And so we've been like looking at all these different houses. We're actually looking in Winchester because at that point, I mean, not at that point. Northern Virginia is just outrageous. There was no chance we were going to own anything in Nova. So we were looking in Winchester, but we were trying to do like, we didn't have any advice on how to do real estate. We didn't know what we were doing. So we were trying to do like everything by the book, buy like an investment property. You have to put 20% down. You have to pay stupid high interest rates. Nothing cash flows. I didn't know any of the tricks. So we'd had a sick house, a 3-unit, like basically an apartment complex, like a 3-unit apartment complex under contract, had the home inspection, had everything done. And we kept running the numbers. We're like, yo, this literally does not make any sense. There's no way we can afford this. Like, just, it will not cash flow. And we're going to have to be here like every single weekend working on the house. And we all have jobs. And I was like the only one that had a job that I didn't have to go into the office. So I was like, I can't, my end of the bargain, we're all bringing the same amount of money to the table. I can't also be the one driving out here every single day of the week renovating this place by myself. And they also knew that too. They were like, they didn't want to do it that way. So anyways, we ended up backing out of that real estate deal. And which honestly, probably the best decision for all of us.
Agreed.
In hindsight, and for you. So we were like back to square one of like, we got $50,000 just sitting in a bank account. I don't know what to do with it. And then you were talking to me, don't do, just give me money to do a stupid tournament. Let's do a cash game and we'll like split action. So that's where I brought it to them. And we had a crazy little math session because shout out to Krogan, who was like a math minor. Adam's a math major. And so they had like this crazy Excel doc. They were running through all these formulas, running through the profitability and what our split should be, what his split should be, and finally got to some sort of deal that seemed to work out in the favor of all parties.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, it was basically the same math problem all over again of like, how are we going to divvy up the profits if we win?
Yeah.
And then how are we going to divvy up the losses if we lose?
Yeah.
And so at this time, I had all of my sessions, and still do, have all of my sessions logged, poker sessions, since September of 2014.
Yeah.
So like we were going over my historical data and trying to get an idea of like what do we think I'm actually making in these games per hour, and then what's a fair breakdown.
Yeah.
And then so with that deal, I took a lot more of the downside risk because I had a bit more money to work with. And I wanted to take as much of the downside risk as I could afford because that would justify me getting as much of the upside as would be fair.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we actually agreed upon me playing. Do you remember how many hours I had to play?
Honestly, not really. I'm very I kind of like just like set it and forget it when I do investments. So please tell me, remind me.
So I had 5 months to play, and it was more like 4 because the first month I was like trying to get my hands on a car to sleep in, and which is a whole nother story.
That is another story.
So I had like 4 months, and I had to play 1,000 hours in 4 months. It maybe was like 4.5 months.
Oh, I know. We put a stupid amount of hours on you.
But at this time, I was coming off of a deal where I was playing like 10, 11 hours every single day.
Yeah.
And so this was nothing to me, cakewalk. And yeah, so I left Vegas because the games in Vegas are just notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
Too many pros. Left Vegas, got a car, Honda Accord, 2-door Honda Accord. You remember
coupe.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, it was so dumb.
And I slept in the back of this car for the whole 4 months, traveling all over the East Coast playing poker. And it went very well. Like by the end of that deal, I was averaging, I think, a little over 50 an hour. And so this deal generated over 50K
It was crazy.
in like a little over 4 months.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, we're going to be rich, baby. Let's go. And so we divvy up the money. And after that deal, then I had enough of a bankroll to really just like, okay, I can actually play with 100% of my action and not have to worry about going broke again.
Yeah.
Or at least it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
And then, from there it was just pretty much uphill. I mean, honestly, since the conversation with Ryan about like, dude, you need to actually take this seriously, treat it like a job, since then it's been pretty much all uphill.
Yeah.
And then here we are today. We're just
doing a podcast.
So how long ago is this? This was...
Oh, this had to be 2018 or 19.
2019, yeah. So by fall in 2019, that's when I went to Purdue for orientation because I had already accepted the offer.
So it was after we did our staking?
Yeah.
Really?
I remember you called me towards the end of the deal and you were looking over the spreadsheet and seeing that I was doing pretty well. And you were like, hey, Adam, I'm looking at these numbers and just wondering, are you still going back to grad school? Or are you just going to ride out this
naval
thing?
lead.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. So I was like trying to be a good boy, went to Purdue and went to orientation. And I was like the classic. So I was going for an econ PhD. And I was the classic, like, I don't know what to do with my life, so I'm just going to do more schooling. Granted, this was paid for at least, and I was going to get a stipend, so that's nice. But I definitely felt like I hadn't finished the poker thing, and I wanted to make it work.
Yeah.
So I went and got I talked to the advisor and got a deferral. Is that what it's called? Or I deferred my acceptance for a year, and I was like, hey, funny thing, I'm kind of a gambling addict, and I'm going to go play poker for a year if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
And I think in his mind, he was like, he read this as, okay, so he's just not coming back.
Yeah.
Because this dude is either going to be successful or he's probably he's just a degenerate.
Yeah, he's just,
So yeah, then after that, it was just, I still didn't have that much money to my name. So I was like on the super grind. Yeah. I was like putting in a ton of hours, not spending any money, trying to save up as much as possible. And yeah, it was just pure grind. And then throughout this whole time, I was getting better.
Yeah.
Because we start this story with me being terrible.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like at least reasonable.
Yeah.
And so the whole time I'm like kind of meeting new poker players, networking, learning a lot, starting to work with solvers. Shout out to Pilot Solver. Very good tool.
Solver is. What the hell's a solver?
It's kind of like a computer it's like ChatGPT for poker.
Okay.
The computer plays itself, and then it will give you some insights in how you should be playing.
Interesting.
Essentially.
Okay.
And then pretty much since then it's been pretty smooth sailing.
What's the most money you've ever lost in one day?
It's hard to say because even though now I primarily play with 100% of my own action,
Okay.
there are sessions where if I'm playing a really big game, I will text a friend and say, hey, do you want 20%? I'm going to play this game.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to guess probably like I've probably lost around 20K in one session.
Did it feel like, what did you feel like when you lost 20K or 20K in one day?
It doesn't feel good to lose, but at the same time, as long as you can afford, that's a weird way of putting it when you're a professional. As long as it's like you're playing within your bankroll and not being excessive. Like when I lost 20K, if I'm even remembering that correctly, I'm not a big like dwell on, oh, this session I won this much, this session I lost this much. So let's say it was 20K. I probably only had like half of myself, so I only lost 10K.
Yeah.
And it's just, given I had a decent amount saved up at that time, it wasn't like a huge hit to my bankroll. What bothers me more is if I lose money when I'm like not playing my best. If I make a big mistake and just like really blunder in a big spot, that will bug me more than losing a big pot.
Yeah.
That if I think that I played well, I can stomach it.
What's the most money you've ever made in one day?
Probably similar. Maybe I've had like a 25K win, but again, that session for sure, I remember I only had half of myself. So I only made 12. I want to say probably the most I've ever made of my personal share of a win has been probably 15K in one session.
Yeah. And now you also do like staking, right? Where like, can you explain how poker players, because there's a weird little like dynamic that poker players have where like you're talking about where you don't have all of your action. Can you explain that?
So primarily, I would say among American players who are doing well, I think it could be different for international players because they kind of come here as like a team. Not to say that they're colluding. I just think that it's more common for international players coming to America to be swapping action. But for American players, I get the impression that most successful American players usually play with 100% of themselves, and myself included. But from time to time, if I'm playing a really big game that I usually wouldn't play, where I could take some big swings up or down, then I will just text a friend, a fellow professional poker player who knows and trusts me to A, be good enough to win, and B, not like scam them.
Yeah,
because I could just say that I lost when I actually won. So I text a friend and say, hey, I'm playing this game, give them the details, and say, do you want 20%? And they'll say yes or no. And so sometimes we do this thing called an auto book, which is like you have a prior arrangement with someone that I'm going to like, hey, my friend Joe, hey, Joe, do you want to be on an auto book? I'm going to be in Vegas for the next week, might play some big games. That means if I can't get in touch with him, if he agrees to this, it means if I can't get in touch with Joe, then I can just text him and say, hey, I'm playing 25-50. You have 10%. Good luck. Then an hour later, he gets a text from me, or 5 hours later, he maybe didn't even respond. 5 hours later, I text him and say, hey, we lost 10K. You owe me whatever percent of that.
Yeah.
Actually, recently I like woke up to a text saying, hey, I had been auto booked and I won, I think 14K, just like in my sleep. So when it goes well, it feels good. But it's basically effectively it's a way of mitigating risk.
Yeah.
Because now instead of me having 100% of myself in this big game, and then my other friends having 100% of themselves, and we're all going to be taking these big swings.
Yeah.
I'm going to have let's say half of myself and then half of my friend.
Yeah.
And now there's a little bit less variance.
Yeah, I kind of equated to like an index fund in the stock market where you have like the S&P 500 that's broken up of a bunch of different companies. Obviously, some companies are going to go down, some companies are going to go up. Maybe right now, tech companies are on the upswing, oil, gas companies are on the downswing, or vice versa. And it's just a way for everything to kind of slowly steady the ship and everything slowly, ideally going all up at the same time over the long run. But that's pretty cool. Now, you want to tell the story real quick about your buddy that you staked for the World Series of Poker.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was one that I was a part of.
Yeah. True.
I'm sadly a part of a lot of these stories, given I'm a really bad gambler.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Jack Oliver, shout out to Jack.
Shout out to Jack.
Friend of mine I did one semester in England in undergrad, just like study abroad, right?
Yeah.
And I was playing of course. I was playing some poker in home games.
Not addicted.
Heck no. I was playing some home games at university in England, just tiny like $20 or 20 quid buy-ins in England. And one of the guys there, Jack, we were friends. We weren't like close, but we knew each other. We had some mutual friends, and we kind of stayed in touch. And eventually he came out to Vegas. This is years later. Now we're both, as it happens, degenerates. We're both playing poker, trying to play professionally. And this was probably a couple years ago, maybe 2021. He comes out for the World Series. And we just happened to be like hanging out. We got some tacos. I think we got it at, we went to Tacos El Gordo. We were just talking about that place.
Yeah.
So I go to Tacos El Gordo with Jack. And after we're walking back to win and to just go play poker. Or I was just going to leave. He was going to go play poker. And he was like, oh, hey, by the way, he's speaking in his accent. I won't even try to put it in
the accent. Give us that.
So he's like, yo, so I'm going to play the main. Do you want a piece? He was like, I already basically sold everything I wanted to sell, but you want 1% just for a sweat? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then he told me like, oh, but you have to pay 1.4x markup, which is basically a way of making it fair for the person playing. Because when I'm buying and selling action in cash games, it's fair because when they take a piece of me, there's an understanding that in the future, I'm going to get a piece of them. Yeah. So we're putting in equal labor.
Yeah.
But in a situation like this, it's not really fair for me to get 1% of him and not give him anything in return. So what you do is you pay markup.
Yeah.
1.4 is a lot of markup, but for that event and given he's a really good player, I was like, okay, sure. Poker players hate paying markup. So I gave a little pushback. He was like, oh, come on, man. Like just 1%. What?
Just be a
pal.
$140.
$140. Twisted my arm. So I take 1% and just give him $140. And then I left Vegas because, I don't know, I was just traveling during WSOP. I wasn't in Vegas, but I was following along with how he's doing. Long story short, he ends up making a really deep run, and he's still in with like 10 tables left. So I'm like, okay, I need to fly back and like sweat this guy. So I fly back to Vegas. Some of his friends fly in from England. We're all just sweating him the whole way. And he makes it to the final table, which was sick. You were actually there.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Well, I was out there before you were there. And it was me and my buddy Kalen, shout out to Kalen, and we were just being degenerates in Vegas, just chilling, doing our thing, playing craps, and just there just to have a good time. We were not good at gambling. We did win, like, it was an embarrassing, like, 7-leg parlay. I'm embarrassed to say that out loud, but that did bankroll me for the whole trip, so that was kind of fun. But, yeah, so anyways, we were out there, and you were texting me, like, yo, I might be coming out. I was like, dude, come crash on the sofa. Like, you go kick it with I think you had a house at that point, though. Did you crash with us for one of the nights?
I think I was subleasing my place. I was actually.
So you might have crashed with us then.
So yeah, I think I crashed on your couch for a bit. I crashed on my own couch for a bit, and then
yeah, because you were texting me like, I might come out. My buddy's in. So yeah, you went out, and then I went and watched it with you. So wait, so from that, how much money did he win, and how much money did you win for having 1% action?
So he ended up getting third place. Tragic ending because we want to get that dub, but he won just for getting third. He won $3 million profit. So I had a measly 1% sweat, and I made $30K. So I was like, that was by far, or I guess not by far, probably at that time, that was by far the biggest like score of any kind I had.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was definitely a good time. It kind of gave me some degen tingles. You ever heard of degen tingles?
No, but I know exactly what they are. Talk to me.
It made like the next year I was like, man, maybe I'll play I think I did play the main the next year.
Well, no, you did because I now knowing what degen tingles are, I definitely had them because you were like, yeah, I think I want to play. I'm like, I want to buy action.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I know all about them because I ended up staking you the next year. I think I just did 1%, same thing. I think I gave you $100 or maybe 200, and then of course you lost me all my money. Thanks, Adam. Really appreciate that. Really helped me right there.
That was a bad time. I thought I was pretty much guaranteed to get third, to be honest.
Yeah, I was like, dude, all I have to do is give you $100 and I get $30K back. This is the best deal of my life.
Did I charge you markup? I probably did.
You definitely did. I think you probably charged me like 20%.
No, I bet it was 10.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I just did it for the pure sweat. I just was like, this is cool, and I want to go into the World Series of Poker and watch you play and be like, that's kind of me playing. 10% of him, 1% of him is me.
That's why I wanted Jack to get a bracelet, which is what you get, like the prize when you win one of these tournaments. And in the poker world, it means something. No one else seems to care. So I wanted him to get a bracelet so that I could say I basically have 1% of a bracelet. Yeah. Not just any bracelet, a main event bracelet.
Yeah. That would be sick. Wait, can you buy bracelets like on eBay? Like just knock off World Series of Poker bracelets?
Oh, well, knockoffs, probably. But you could probably buy real WSOP bracelets.
How much do you think that would cost?
I don't know. I would assume that just the jewelry itself costs like, maybe for a normal event, $1,000 or so. Maybe for the main event, probably a lot more. Tens of thousands.
Kind of hilarious to buy one and then go to the casino. Have you ever seen somebody playing in just like a normal cash game?
I don't think so. Cash game players.
What would you do if I showed up, had a backpack? For those of you who don't know, if you show up to the casino with a backpack on, it makes you look like a professional poker player.
Look this up.
And so if I showed up with a backpack and a little World Series of Poker bracelet, do you think people would play against me differently? Or would they know that I'm just effing around?
I don't know how to read. This isn't a real. This is not a real question. All right, hold up. Let's see if you can. Okay, WSOP bracelet for sale.
Talk to me.
$29. No, but it's probably not real.
I was gonna buy it. Wait, is there actually one that you can buy on like Amazon? Like, I don't need a real one. I just want to knock off one, just to walk around Vegas.
Oh, knock off one? Yeah, $29.
Really? Let me see.
Oh wait.
That'd be sick. Just walk around looking like I know what I'm doing in poker. Let's see. That's what it looks like?
I didn't think so. That doesn't look real to me. But
yeah, because I don't would you know if somebody was wearing that was even a World Series of Poker bracelet? Like that doesn't look.
This
very
doesn't look
distinct.
right.
I thought they were gold.
Yeah, I thought they were too.
All right, we'll do a little recon on that later.
To be honest, this is not my area of expertise.
Yeah, you're not much of a flexer. You're the
not yet.
Polar opposite of a flexer.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, you are getting bougie.
Yeah.
Mr. LASIK over here.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's see. Do I have any other interesting questions? I guess we'll do last question. What's the craziest shit you've ever seen happen in a casino?
I don't have like a go-to story.
Because there's got to be some just wild, either cool winnings or this dude just beat up this other guy. There's got to be something crazy you've seen. You literally lived in Vegas. I guess it doesn't have to specifically be.
I think you'd be surprised how mundane the life of a professional poker player is. There's an adventurous element, but it's not. There's nothing that crazy going on. One time I was playing at Wynn. This is a very underwhelming story. But one time I was playing at Wynn, and I was playing some small stakes game because the bigger game had broke. You're not going to catch me at the small stakes table very much. But I was playing, it was 3 a.m. I'm playing poker as one does at that hour. I'm at the Wynn. And some guy, so I'm playing at this really low stakes table, and some guy comes in from the pits, which is where you play table games. And he comes up to my table with a bunch of 1K chips in his hand, and he sees that we're playing for small amounts of money. And so I think as a flex, he's like, "Oh, anybody want to play me heads up for 5K?" And I'm like, "No limit," which is the poker variant that I usually play. I'm like, "You want to play no limit?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's play." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll play." And then so we go to the floor and we're like, "Hey, can we open up a table?" And surprisingly, he was down. Usually, if someone asks us and you take them up on it, they're just going to be like, "Oh, yeah, I was just pulling your chain.
Let's go get a drink at the bar."
Yeah. So we try to get the floor at the Wynn to open up a table for us. They won't. And I was like, that's fine because all my money is at Bellagio where my box is. So I'll give you a ride to Bellagio.
You're taking this for, man.
Yeah. So I was like, "Hey, man, what's your name again? Oh, Rich? Yeah. Hey, I'll give you a ride to Bellagio. They'll 100% open a table for us." And so we go to Bellagio.
I can't believe how down this guy was.
Oh, yeah.
After he got a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
To then.
So we're driving to Bellagio in my car, and he's making fun of me for self-parking. He's like, "Dude, you don't even valet. You're not rich." And so we go get my car. We drive to Bellagio. I'm calling them on the way. "Oh, yo, Sean, can you open up a 10-20 game for me? I have a friend who wants to play." And so Sean knows what's good. So we get to Bellagio, and they open up a game for us. And this guy, people end up coming because at these stakes, people hear about the game. So
and you don't want people to hear about the game because the people that are going to come to the game are going to be the ones that are going to be good.
Eat me alive. So this guy gets eaten alive, of course.
How much did he lose?
I think he only had 10K on him, but he lost all of that. But I didn't get much of it. Maybe I won a bit, but other professional players showed up and filled up the game, and this guy lost. But he was chill. I don't remember this guy's name, but shout out to you. I know it said Rich. I'm just making
Yeah.
for the sake of the story.
It goes well with the story. It goes well.
Yeah, there's not that much. Not much.
Wait,
like
did the other
crazy...
poker players, since you basically started this like high limits like or no limits game, were they all like, hell yeah, Adam, good looks, or is this just like
This is pretty normal.
Like,
this is normal behavior.
One of you people just get this poor guy off the streets?
No. This is like this kind of thing happens not that infrequently.
Okay.
At least in Vegas,
Yeah.
like you have some guy who's playing, like you have some big whale, and then people hear about it, and let's say that this whale is around for a week. People know, and they're like,
oh really? Like
camping out trying to.
They get that.
If it's a big whale, this wouldn't qualify for that kind of situation. But there was, when I was in my 2-5 grind, there was a billionaire whale playing at the Wynn. Billionaire. This dude, and he didn't speak English. He was, I think, Chinese maybe. And so he would play Baccarat, which is some table game, and he would come to play poker with his translator. And this dude was losing so much that people were flying into Vegas from like the world to play with this guy. And I remember being at a 2-5 game, and one of the 5-10 players came to like say hi to his friend at my 2-5 table, and he had been playing with the whale. And it was a 5-10 game where usually you're going to win or lose like a couple thousand. And he came over, and his friend asked him, how did you do with the whale? And he said, basically broke even. And he was like, oh, okay, nice. And he was like, well, I mean, I won 10K, but like in that game, that was like breaking even. And I was like, oh man, they're playing some high stakes poker back there.
Did you not get to play with the billionaire?
No.
Or were you not rolled for
I
that
was
at that
like
point?
way too poor at that point.
Yeah.
But people were like showing up at 2 a.m., starting the game with their just all pros basically, and just waiting for this guy whenever he shows up. So by the time he would show up, they would already have 3 tables going, 3 full tables, and they would just ask him, pick a table. He would pick it. They would make it 10-handed. He would sit down. The other 2 tables, they would all get up and go home.
No.
And then they would just play until the guy left.
Did he know what was going on? Like, did he know that?
I don't know, but I would imagine yes. Like typically these big whales, they understand that they're whales. Sometimes they'll even out of spite, they'll say like, all right, I'm leaving. If someone says something that they don't like, they'll say, I'm leaving because he said that. And they know that everyone's like dying inside because they're leaving. So they use their like whale-ness to spite you. If they don't like how you played a hand, or you like stuck out on them or something, then they'll say, that's it, I'm sick of this guy, I'm leaving. Then they leave and everybody gets mad at you.
And then everybody hates you. That's hilarious. All right, well, hey, I appreciate you coming on the show, Adam. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This was sick.
Podcast.
I'm impressed that you found it.
I'm impressed that you found it. Do you want to do it? You want to give the people the outro?
Find some ways to make some passive income so I can see you out on the slopes, or at the poker table, or at the paintball course. Honestly,
Yeah. No, that's a good one. Figure out some ways to make some passive income so Adam can see you out on the slopes, or take your money at the poker table. That is kind of like a retired thing to do too. Just chilling at the poker table.
Come find me.
Come find him. All right, sir. Till next time.
Sick.
Sick.
Over and out.
Over and out. All right.